All right, guys. When it came to the reason given why Jolie Musa did not receive an Amber Alert, it was said that it was because she left on her own accord. However, as I go through the criteria for the Amber Alert and the way states and cities use them, it's basically suggested on the way that they should use it. Meaning it's up to the individual state or city's discretion on how and when the Amber Alert should be utilized. Not only that, as I read further, should Jolie Musa have been listed as an endangered runaway? Let's start from the top. When a law enforcement agency is notified about an abduction or an abducted child, it must first determine if the child's case meets program's Amber Alert criteria. The U.S. Department of Justice recommended guidelines are: there is a reasonable belief by law enforcement an abduction has occurred. Now, they kept saying that over and over till we got it embedded in our head. The abduction is of a child age 17 or younger. Check. The law enforcement agency believed the child is in imminent danger or serious bodily injury or death. They claimed they didn't know that much. There is enough descriptive information about the victim and abduction for law enforcement to issue an Amber Alert to assist in the recovery of a child. Check. Jolie Musa's family had information out the wazoo, plus their own character and analysis of their own child. They knew her behavior, they knew what was normal for her, and they let law enforcement know exactly what the tea was in regards to that. But they chose to ignore it. All right, and here we go down the list. This one here says the child's name and other critical data elements, including the child abduction flag, have been entered into the National Crime Information Center, known as NCIC database. Now, as we go down, it lets us know the four different categories that the law enforcement agency would use in order to characterize the Amber Alert case, and it's done by a case-by-case basis, basically. There are family abductions, there are non-family abductions, lost, injured, or otherwise missing, then there's endangered runaway. Let's start off with endangered runaway. They have the definition and criteria for being listed as an endangered runaway as any missing child between the ages of 11 and 17 of age who is missing of his or her own accord and whose whereabouts are unknown to his or her parents or legal guardian. That can be entered into the database for the reason to issue an Amber Alert. One of these four can be used as a category to go ahead and enter it into the system to go ahead and click the switch on the Amber Alert. Endangered runaway is one of them. Family abduction is on the top of that list. Non-family abduction is number 2. A non-family abduction is defined as the unauthorized taking, retention, luring, confinement, or concealment of a child younger than 18 by someone other than a family member. Check. Jolie Musa was definitely that. She was gone. Somebody had her, lured her away, had her away from her family. The family didn't know who, what, when, what, how. Jolie Musa was that. Then there's lost, injured, or otherwise missing. Lost, injured, or otherwise missing is defined as any missing child younger than the age of 18 when there are insufficient facts that determine the cause of a child's disappearance, or any child 10 years of age or younger who is missing on his or her own accord. There's another one that could have been used to enter Jolie Musa into the system to issue an Amber Alert. So when they get to talking about criteria and what's not being met when it comes to, I guess, qualifying for an Amber Alert, maybe they need to recheck the list. Maybe they need to reiterate the full list of criteria that need to be met in order to issue the Amber Alert, because clearly they only remember one. The only thing they remember that's on this list is being abducted. Clearly, it states that there are different criteria for I guess, meeting what's needed to get an Amber Alert. So while they dance and all around the topic of why Jolie Musa wasn't issuing an Amber Alert, somebody needs to hold them accountable. Stop letting them backpedal on our kids like that. Jolie Musa is not the first child of a family who someone failed to issue an Amber Alert for, especially in the state of Virginia. There are several cases of missing and endangered kids that should have been given an Amber Alert. They came up dead, still missing. Parents still wonder what's going on. All because someone failed to issue the Amber Alert because in their heads, they didn't qualify. They weren't good enough. They were just runaways, a stereotypical runaway. Or maybe it was a race thing. I don't know. It could be. It's not like that's unheard of in Virginia. I'm just saying, while they're holding to this tagline that they have, has to be abducted. We have to have proof of abduction. Bullshit. I call bullshit when they were saying it at first, and I call bullshit after this last press conference. It's all bullshit. I know it's small writing, but that's as big as I can get it for you guys so you can see the entire thing. Something told me, I said, let me pull this thing up. It don't sound like, it don't sound right. And I know I'm not the most savvy girl when it comes to laws and all this, that, and the third. I'm just a passionate individual, with a big heart. But I said, let me look at this thing. Let me see what this Amber Alert business is about and why ain't nobody getting none. They're choosing not to issue them. They're choosing not to do the work. They're choosing to put our kids on the back burner because stereotypically they could be runaways. Instead of doing each individual as a case-by-case scenario, everybody's lumped in one pot. Doesn't matter what the parents say. Not my child. This is a good child. I don't know what happened to my child. Nah, all they hear is and see is black child, runaway child, problem child. At least that's what it's looking like. That's what it's really looking like. So I tell you, if you don't believe what I'm saying, Google it for yourself and pull up a copy of the Amber Alert definition and criteria for yourself. Let's stop letting them shoot that shit to us. Just wanted to show you guys a little something so you guys can have the same side eye that I be having when I be listening to the bullshit they be saying when it comes to our kids. Oh, we worthy. They got families that love them, families that nurture them. Our kids come from good homes. It's a bigger majority of our kids that come from great homes than there are that fit the stereotype they're trying to box all our kids in when it comes to us needing emergency situations or emergency assistance. And I think it's time we make them recognize that. Stop lumping us all in the same box. It is not cool. Lives are being lost. Families are grieving. And enough is enough. Call their asses out. Peace and love.